Right, it is a mistake, cock-up time, and a costly mistake, but might as well own up to it and do a video about it. So, some months ago we did an upgrade to the Multicomp Pro solder station. I've done a video on that, and it was to replace my very old ERSA i-CON2 and the tweezers that were costing me nearly 100 quid a time to replace the tips on. So we've been using the Multicomp Pro ever since with excellent results, but the very fine tips that I had for it are great for the microscopic parts that we're changing, but they're not so good for the slightly larger mouth resistors that we also need to change. So I got fed up with fiddling around with these. As I say, perfect for the small parts, not so good for the slightly larger resistors. So we purchased another set of tips, which are, as you can see, hopefully much bigger, and these would have worked perfectly except for the angles that we've got here. We have a specific task to achieve, and the curve here means that the iron tips here catch the plastic very near the components we're changing and melt it. So unfortunately for me, they're not going to do the job, but other than that they would have been perfect, because the temperature, the size of the tip is absolutely perfect, and at 30 quid a time for the tips, elements, the whole module, that is a pretty good price. I've ordered the last 3 of these that were available from Farnell or CPC or wherever it was I got them from. So based on the life of the existing ones, we've got a few years worth of tips now. So in the meantime, obviously, as you know, I had sold my i-CON2 and the tweezers that I used to use. So I have bought a cheap i-CON1. I say cheap, nothing's cheap ERSA wise, even second hand, but this was okay. This cost 200 quid. Came with an eye-tool that has seen better days, but that was fine. I also then went out and purchased the ridiculously expensive tweezers, the chip tool, and that is a brand new version of the one I had. As I say, really not cheap, way over 300 quid, ridiculous amounts of money. But when you're doing the same thing day in, day out, that's what was required. Anyway, so I'm quite pleased with myself. Brand new tweezers, which are great because mine were absolutely knackered. The tiny little grub screws that you can see in there were, seized. One was missing. I'd lost the little hex key that is on the handle there for adjusting everything. So not a problem, I thought. Got these, plugged them into this, and tool isn't recognised. And then we had a closer look. 5 pins in there and 6 pins in there. So unfortunately for me, the chip tool is not compatible with the earlier i-CON1. It is only compatible with the i-CON2 that I had. I cannot find one on eBay at a reasonable price. There are other stations that are now not sold anymore that it's compatible with. There was one i-CON2 being sold used, looked a bit banged up, screen was a bit faulty. 600 quid I think the guy was asking for it, or maybe 650. I mean, totally ridiculous price. So I ended up with new tweezers for everything, 350 quid's worth of new tweezers and a station I can't use and don't want. So I've had to bite the bullet, admit I cocked it up, and should have tested all this stuff for a lot longer, and then just replace the tips again, and it would have cost me 100 quid. But instead I've had to go out and buy the new stand for the tweezers that I've got, just a mere £85. I've then had to go and buy what I thought was a station that the tweezers will work with, and I ordered this from Farnell, again not cheap, £5.50ish, and then I was looking on the specs and it looked like this wasn't going to work either, because this is one of the new i-CON2V, and the V stands for Vario, and then they have a whole set of tools. In fact, one of the tools looks very much like this Vario chip tool tweezers. They're that sort of size and style. So I thought, oh Christ, this bloody chip tool isn't going to work on this either. So this arrived and I plugged the chip tool into it on the right hand port, and yeah, it didn't work. It's in German at the moment, I haven't changed the language over, I couldn't read the message, but it clearly didn't recognise it, so I just assumed I was completely stuffed there. And then I decided to plug it into the left port, and thankfully it actually works. So I just thought we'd have a little look at what we get with this i-CON2V. We've got about 10 pages of UK instructions and a whole load of brochures on air filters and blah 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 blah. Blundell Production Equipment Limited is the importer, but I have got this from Farnell. I think it's Farnell, is that the label on the top? Yeah, Farnell. So what do you get? Let's open it up and have a look. Firstly, we have a brand new i-tool. Let me compare it to the old one. That has been redesigned. The diameter of the grip here is thicker, you can probably tell. Other than that, yeah, very similar, but obviously a different design, so that's fine. We have a new stand with the little brass inserts that go in here, and what you do with that is just rest spare tips in the top. I think I prefer this new silicone bit. It feels, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's better. And why is it it's spring loaded? Why would they need to do that? A little spring loaded bit in there. I don't know if you can see that on there. Not sure why they would need that, but there it is. So that is that. And then we have the IEC cord with an EU plug on the end, and there's no adapter. That's not even legal to sell in the UK. It has to be supplied with a UK plug, and nothing. So I'm not particularly impressed with that. Now here is the unit. So that's what you get for your 550 quid. It's got a lot of dust on it. We have, you won't be able to see probably in there, but the left side has got a full complement of metal sockets in there. You can see, you won't be able to, but on this side you don't. You have at least, yeah, two blank holes in there. Nothing looks like it's changed very much. If I bring over the old i-CON2V, I'm not seeing any difference. It looks like the cases are exactly the same, the display position is all the same, sizes look the same, switches, yeah, all pretty similar. Fused at the back, yeah, no problem. 24 volt, 80 watts on that i-CON2V, and this one is 24 volts, 120 watts on this one. Made in Germany. Well, I guess that would explain a lot of the additional cost. Let's have a look at the old one. Yeah, both made in Germany, so yeah, I mean, you could add on hundreds of pounds for a German-made product. Just looking at the metal trim there, yeah, it's all okay. So what we're going to have to do is get the cable for the i-CON2V and plug it in. So this firmware is a year old. Note we have an SD, micro SD slot underneath now, so that means you can update the firmware if any is ever released. Now currently we've got no tool, so let's do a few things. Let's first of all see if the old iTool will work in the right port where I want it to go, if we're going to use it ever. Yeah, it's recognised an iTool. See, the same old problem with this crap display. See the lag and it's really not the best display going. You might be able to improve it with the contrast and brightness settings, which I assume it has. So that is fine. The old iTool is recognised, but the most important thing for me is the new one. New tweezers will work in here, like so. So eventually it will recognise chip tool. 385 is already set. Now the warning came up in German, so I'm going to just quickly go into the menu, and yeah, this is in German, so let's see if we can find how to change the temperature, sorry, the language, and I can't see where that is. Interesting. Okay, we might have to look at the instructions for that one. Brief instructions, as they say on the front of the manual. Hopefully it will at least tell you how to change the language quickly. Right, let's have a little look. Switching it on for the first time. Bah, 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 bah. Language selection. Okay. So, okay. Looks like we have to turn the soldering iron off, press and hold the button, and then switch on. And we go to configuration menu. Okay. And let's have a look. Turn the, okay, should come down to language change, but it doesn't. So look at the first option. So here we go, Sprach, German, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish, English, there we go. So we've changed the language. I'm assuming, I don't know whether you can see that or not, this display really has to be viewed at the correct angle. But we've got password, unit, degrees C, language, temperature window, 20 degrees, no idea what that does. Shutdown, 0 minutes, heating plate, end. Let's get the hell out of there. And then we're back to normal. If we go into, yeah, we can set the temperature here and all of the other functions. So I-tool, X-tool, CT vario, so we can change tools. Yeah, so if we turn that off and back on again, this dust is attracted to this screen. It's yeah, not very nice. Don't know whether you can see that. So there we go. We will possibly use the new i-tool in here as well. Yeah, that's running that. No problem at all. Now, there's not much to say about the quality and the reliability of ERSA. I've used them for, oh god, I don't know, 20 years plus probably, and never had a problem. The displays are a bit notorious, they're not ever perfect. I don't know why they've not improved that on this version, but you know, other than that, I've never really had any issues. And with this new updatable firmware feature with the micro SD card, if they do change anything, we are able to update and you know, go with the new firmware. I suspect also in the instructions you may be able to back up your own settings to the SD card, so if you ever have to replace the unit you can load up your preferred settings. Very disappointing that they have not included a UK IEC cable, or at least an adapter. That's not right, that shouldn't be happening. They should know that. You know, I thought Amazon were bad enough at that sort of thing, but for a company like Farnell to be doing that, it's not acceptable. So yeah, just a basic look at the ERSA i-CON2V. So if you do have an old chip tool, it will work in the left port, and the other tools will work in the right ports. So yeah, there we go. A bit of a mistake. This has cost me quite a lot of money, but this will keep my workflow as quick and as smooth as possible, which is more important than the oh god, what have we cost here? This probably cost best part of £1,000. Probably sell the i-CON1 back on eBay, because that really is of no use to me. Or perhaps I should keep it as an emergency backup, even though the tweezers don't work with it. Anyway, there we go. So yeah, don't sell off your old equipment too quickly. Just make sure your new stuff works and does everything you need it to. So just to show you the actual setup now. So we're going to use the Multicomp Pro with the very fine tip and the fine tip tweezers, which this pair are very close to need to be changed. We are then using the Weller for the very high temperature applications, and this has been great. I mean, this can be run all day long at 450 degrees. The tip is still absolutely fine. It looks a bit crusty now, but once you warm it up and wipe it on the sponge, it is great. And then we will have the ERSA tweezers for the slightly different resistors that need to be changed. Don't think I need the i-tool currently, but possibly I will fit it in here at some point at a lower temperature. Now, to make the tips on this last as long as possible, I have changed the chip tool parameters. So 350 degrees is what I want it set to, The minimum temperature, you cannot go any lower than 150 degrees, unfortunately. I would have lowered that otherwise. Maximum temperature I've set at 350. Calibration doesn't need to be worried about. I think it's possibly got the right tip type, but I don't know whether you can change that, or you can. So I might look at what tips I've actually got and make sure it's got the right ones in there. It comes by default with the tips that it's got fitted, so that might be correct already. Now what I've done is I have gone to just 5 minutes standby time, because really I'll probably just be I don't know, I could just turn this on as I require it. The heat up time is so quick anyway, but I've set the standby time to just 5 minutes. And standby temperature, unfortunately, you can only do 150 as the lowest setting, and then back to end. So that should keep that tool as new as possible. I probably will just turn this iron on with the particular particular model that it's required to be used on has appeared on the bench, and then perhaps just turn it off afterwards. So hopefully that will keep the tips lasting as long as possible, but that gives me all of the options that I need to make things very smooth and efficient. So yeah, there we go.